واحد الحوار من أهم الحوارات اللي سمعت. برنامج أمريكي استضاف استاذة مغربية أستاذ جزائري ومعهم واحد الخبير أمريكي، وتكلموا على القرار الأممي ومازال كيناقشوا فيه، وكذلك الحكم الذاتي. صراحة عجبني الحوار لأنه تناول بزاف النقاط. عجبتني الأستاذة المغربية، جاوبت على بزاف النقاط وردات. نتكلموا على العلاقة غزة والتطبيع، نهضروا عليها الجزائر واش طرف، وكذلك عامل الوقت. ولكن الأهم من هذا الشيء كامل أن الصحفية هضرت واحد الموضوع مهم، هو موضوع اللحظة، هو الجمود اللي غيولد الإرهاب في المنطقة. حتى الجزائري هضر على الصحراء شرقية. هاد النقط غنفصلوا فيها بالتفصيل في آخر الفيديو. اسمع لي الفيديو مزيان وركز لي على النقاط اللي قلت لك، غادي نزيدو نفصلوا فيهم في آخر الفيديو. تبع معايا.
Algeria spends more on its military than any other country in North Africa. In fact, its defense budget has hit record levels, totaling almost a quarter of all public spending. Now, some say it's an indication that Algiers is preparing for a potential war with Rabat. But contrast that with historic steps taken recently towards settling the Moroccan-Algerian conflict over Western Sahara. The Trump administration has been increasingly vocal about finalizing a peace deal between the two soon, and the UN Security Council is mostly on board. But can Algeria be convinced? Here's a look.
Celebrations in Morocco after the UN Security Council backed the country's autonomy plan for disputed Western Sahara. Rabat first proposed the plan in 2007. It grants self-rule for the region's Sahrawi people under Moroccan sovereignty. Many Western nations, including the US, France and Spain, view this plan as the most realistic solution to the decades-long conflict. Morocco's king called the UN resolution a historic turning point.
My beloved people, after 50 years of sacrifice, we are, with God's help and guidance, embarking on a new chapter in consolidating the Moroccan identity of the Sahara and bringing a definitive end to this artificial conflict.
The dispute over the mineral-rich region dates back to 1975, when Spain withdrew and Morocco annexed the territory. The Polisario Front, backed by Algeria, fought a 16-year war with Rabat to establish an independent state called the Sahrawi Republic. A 1991 ceasefire, which promised a referendum on self-determination, froze the conflict for almost 3 decades. But in 2020, tensions over a critical trade road in the UN-monitored buffer zone reignited the fighting. That same year, the US recognized Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara after Rabat agreed to join the Abraham Accords and normalize relations with Israel. The move angered Algeria, which later cut diplomatic ties with Morocco. Algiers also didn't vote for the UN resolution, saying the right to Western Sahara's self-determination must be respected.
Algeria wanted to illustrate the distance that we put between ourselves and the text, which does not faithfully reflect, does not sufficiently reflect the UN doctrine with regard to decolonization.
Meanwhile, the Polisario Front insists any lasting solution must be acceptable to both parties.
The story is not over, will never be over, until the Sahrawi people have been able to exercise freely and democratically their inalienable right to self-determination and independence.
US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has recently said that his team hopes to have a peace deal between Algeria and Morocco within the next 60 days. So Morocco has scored a major diplomatic win, but with Algeria still not on board and the Polisario Front continuing to push for independence, the promise of peace in Western Sahara remains uncertain.
So what can we realistically expect within 60 days? Well, joining me now to debate that and more are from Washington, Professor of International Affairs and Political Science at American University's School of International Service, William Lawrence. From Casablanca, Professor of International Relations at the Higher Institute of Management, Yasmin Hasnaoui. And from Doha, Professor of Political Science at Qatar University, Youssef Bouandel. Thanks all so much for being with me. William, I'll begin with you because judging from what Washington has said, you could easily believe a peace deal and normalized relations are literally around the corner. So are we that close?
No, if you look at the Algerian foreign minister's comment Sunday night, it was very dismissive. So was the Polisario comment. Basically, what the resolution states, and the official text hasn't been released yet, but we pretty much know what's in it from all the news reporting and even including the internal UN reporting, is that Morocco had a breakthrough on two elements. Number one, it no longer mentions a referendum, and number two, it mentions the autonomy plan specifically as something that should be the basis of negotiations, and that could be a solution to the problem. But then all it does is it calls for negotiations and an update in 6 months. Now, Witkoff and Kushner a week ago on 60 Minutes said they'd like a resolution in 60 days. I was with both Algerian ambassadors yesterday, or the day before yesterday, Saturday night. And they really hadn't been contacted yet, so there's no real discussions of those negotiations. So the way I see this is another U.S. attempt to sort of force a solution without really negotiating a path to it. And Moroccans take it as a victory, as they should, because they had a minor breakthrough at the United Nations. But we really don't have a plan for negotiations yet, or a plan that both sides accept.
Okay. So let me ask Yasmin, what is Morocco actually conceding to Algeria here to bring them really to the table with a deal that both sides can accept? Because as far as Algeria is concerned, the Polisario Front hasn't even been included, which is the organization that Algeria defends. So what's in it for Algeria at this point?
Well, actually, Donald Trump's decision to recognize Morocco's sovereignty over the Moroccan Western Sahara was, I think, a game changer in the decade-long conflict. And, you know, this recognition opened the way for international actors to press Morocco and Algeria to negotiate a lasting and political solution. And it is important also to state that since, I mean, on several occasions, the King of Morocco has landed like an olive branch to Algeria as a call for a dialogue. Not even this year, but in so many occasions. And even in 2018, the King also set up like a mechanism with Algeria to come up and sit on the table and actually surmount these differences that the countries have been having, I would say, since 1963. So, but this actually came to a deaf ear. So I think that that's why now, the United States is well positioned to bridge the gap between Algeria and Morocco. And, the United States relations with Rabat have strengthened significantly in recent years. That was actually marked by military cooperation and also with Algeria. So I think that, the United States can definitely do something. There is a tool. The tool is a dialogue. I don't think that now Algeria has mentioned anything after, that dialogue, but I think they should actually come up to the table and actually to mend actually.
Okay, let me ask Yusuf for his opinion basically on the same question. Again, what is in it for Algeria? Dialogue doesn't mean much if it's already said that you're not including what we see as one of the main parties at stake here, Polisario Front. Is the United States relying more and more on Algeria just being the odd man out and succumbing to more and more diplomatic pressure as, more European countries back the autonomy plan? But is that going to be enough for Algeria? They've been in this position of, some would argue, isolation for 50 years now.
Well, I think what's going on right now is that we, or the international community, seems to forget the other party to the conflict. Yes, Algeria supports the Polisario, but the Polisario itself has not been included in this. So Algeria can pressure the Polisario for so many reasons, but let's not forget why this MINURSO was established in 1991, and after a proposal that was submitted by and accepted by Morocco and the Polisario in 1988 that set up this MINERSO, and I quote, the mission of the MINERSO was to provide a transitional period for the preparation of a referendum in which the people of the Western Sahara would choose, and this is very important, between independence and integration with Morocco. For the last 34 years or so, MINERSO's mission has been to do this referendum and let the people choose between independence or integration with Morocco. They have not achieved that for several reasons. Who is qualified to take part in this referendum? Like Yasmin said, said that that Trump's recognition of the Western, the sovereignty of Morocco over the Western Sahara is very important. And now Trump is putting his weight behind this proposal in order to achieve a settlement for this year's conflict. Yeah, however, it has not included. However, it has not included the main objective of Algeria, as well as the Polisario, which is the people of the Western Sahara be given a chance of, why not, independence if they choose so, or to remain with Morocco if they do so.
So let me ask William then, I mean, how hard will Algeria be willing to kind of dig in its heels on behalf of the Polisario Front and that prospect of Sahrawis and the people of Western Sahara getting that referendum, which would allow an option for independence, according to what they're asking for? Many people don't want that referendum. They think it would be counterproductive. But it's a serious sticking point for the Algerian parties involved. So how hard will they be willing to go to get what they want?
Very hard. I've written on this. The Algerians see the independence of the Sahrawis and their own independence as, for all intents and purposes, one and the same struggle. That this is a question of decolonization of Africa. Even the UN considers this territory the last non-self-governing territory, i.e. non-decolonized territory in Africa. And I don't see a lot of give there. I mean, there are certainly a lot of practical Algerian civilians and others, and even some within the regime who believe that good relations with Morocco are important and that concessions can be made. But they always say it's up to the Sahrawis to give up their sovereignty rights, not for Algeria to impose it on them through this type of mechanism. It is significant that during the week-long debate after the Americans proposed their original text about a week before the vote, that the Russians were able to insert language about self-determination. So the text itself, which the Moroccans just see as a flat-out victory, includes both language about negotiations on the basis of the autonomy plan and language about the rights of Sahrawis to self-determine. Well, how do you self-determine other than through a referendum? You can certainly give up your sovereignty rights through a negotiation, but that would be you giving it up yourself, not Algeria giving it up for you. So again, this is, we can say like a partial victory for Morocco, but as your questions implied, really there are no concessions to the Algerians yet.
So, I mean, is the hope right now all based on the fact that the United States, under the Trump administration, is stepping up its interest when it had really distanced itself from this conflict for decades even, because it just didn't think it was in U.S. interest? I mean, is that really all that's going on here? Because those on the other side see it as U.S. interest being about the Abraham Accords. They don't trust why the U.S. wants a peace between Algeria and Morocco. But is that really the only foundation that's there? Is that, again, Washington is pushing for this?
Well, it's not the only foundation, but it's the only raison d'etre, right? It's what's making this happen. And I see not only the connection between the Abraham Accords, i.e., U.S. is the only country to recognize the Moroccan claim, and that was exchanged for the normalization of ties with Israel. But the U.S. plan and the U.S. methods resemble the Gaza peace plan in that the U.S. is trying to force something through without much negotiation and without actual international parties signing off on it. So, the Gaza peace plan has only 2 signatures on 25% of it, Hamas and Israel. Nobody else has signed off. What they signed in Sharm el-Sheikh was not the plan. It was just a statement about how things were good. And so everyone's counting on the Trump administration pushing things through on Gaza. And similarly, in this case, everyone's counting on the Trump administration as pushing things through with Algeria. And it is true. Trump has shown time and again he's willing to twist arms and knock heads together to get his way. But those of us that sort of study international affairs and peacemaking know that for sustainable peace, you actually need the parties to agree rather than be forced to agree. Forced agreements tend not to hold over the longer term. Right.
Let me ask Yasmin then. I mean, is Gaza influencing this? The process in Gaza influencing this at all? Do Witkoff and Kushner, do they need to get this done before potentially the Gaza ceasefire unravels, and then the region potentially explodes again? Is there a real time factor in this for Witkoff and Kushner that is making it a little less realistic? Go ahead.
Well, actually, no, I don't think so. It's something, these are two things that are really different. So when President Trump came in, he promised to end war, secure the border, and fair trade. And that's how he got elected. Now, whether ending wars in the Middle East, in North Africa or Africa, that is part of Trump's agenda. I mean, the time frame is not really, I would say, it's not really that respected, because we've seen that. I mean, in negotiations, there is what we call the zone of a possible agreement. So in approaching a negotiation, I mean, in international affairs, the issues are far more complex, whether with Ukraine, whether with Palestine, or whether with, with Morocco. So there is no time frame. Now, when it comes to the Moroccan Western Sahara, I mean, I would like to actually say something really important and actually say something about the referendum. Now, everyone is talking about the referendum. Let's give the Polisario the right to actually express themselves. But, the referendum was actually something that was not applicable. And it was Morocco who accepted the referendum in 1981, and it did not go through. That's why actually the issue stalled from, I would say, 2004 until 2007, when actually it's the UN actually who asked Morocco to come up with a new solution. But definitely it's not Morocco that did not want the referendum. It just because of the identification process that the referendum did not work. And actually this issue tested the imagination of James Baker from 97 to 2004 by bringing up a referendum that did not go through. And after Van Walsum, who came in and believed that independence is not an option. Now, after Christopher Ross came in, and after 13 rounds, he did not actually go through. And then Hurst Collar, who came, he wanted actually to bring the parties on the table, but it did not work out. And now with the Mistura, he found out that actually there is a stalemate, and the only way is the plan of autonomy, because even it's not working. So I just want to actually clarify why the referendum is not working. And when it comes to time frame, we are way actually we cannot compare ourselves to Palestine or to Gaza or to Ukraine. It's really these. Different.
Yusuf, I'd like to move on to a bigger, I shouldn't say bigger, but another regional issue with you, because there are several analysts now saying that Morocco and Algeria's diplomatic stalemate has left both countries at a very serious and rather scary disadvantage when it comes to fighting extremists in the region, leaving them both in greater danger. And if this doesn't get sorted out, we could be facing a whole nother style of conflict in the region. Do you believe there's truth to that? And is that another pressure point that could be applied to both parties to try and get a deal done more quickly?
Well, I think there is some truth in that, but it's not the whole truth. Obviously, Algeria has been fighting inside terrorism throughout the 90s, and now it's facing several terrorist groups in the south, as well as around the Libyan borders. There are long-standing disputes between Algeria and Morocco, mainly since 1963, or after Algeria's independence, because still the borders between Algeria and Morocco have not been officially recognized, especially by the Moroccans. They still hold some claims about what they call the Eastern Sahara, which is several parts of Algeria. And obviously the conflict over the Western Sahara has made the relations between the countries even more difficult. And more recently, as far as Algeria is concerned, the rapprochement between Morocco and the State of Israel, and the visit of the Israeli foreign ministers, and he used Morocco in order to threaten Algeria from Morocco, and as well as there has been some training exercises between the Moroccan army and the Israelis. Algeria, given its position vis-à-vis what's happening in Gaza, see this as a threat to its security, and that's why I don't think, despite several attempts by the Moroccan king, most recently a few days ago, in which, like Yasmin said, offered olive branch to the Algerians and wanted to sit with President Tebboune on negotiating table and to discuss openly in order to find a way to resolve those disputes, but Algeria has been dead against it for these particular reasons. And they also claim that the Algerian army has been successful in defeating these terrorist organizations.
Okay. And William, you know, I guess in the longer term, if Algeria doesn't concede something, is there a risk of consequences similar to what Iran potentially has faced against Israel and the United States, because Israel has said that there is this kind of axis of power involving Algeria and Iran, and could that be used as some kind of to put undue pressure, arguably, on Algeria if it doesn't concede something in these talks going forward?
It's possible, but I don't really think so. Morocco has made a lot about a connection between Polisario and Hezbollah, which basically doesn't exist in any significant way. And I don't think anyone's going to be sanctioning Algeria soon, given how important Algerian gas is in the context of the Ukraine war to European energy needs. But I think when I look at this, the silver lining on the Trump effort is that Algeria has been arming, and Morocco have been arming in large new ways, preparing for a potential war against each other, which nobody wants. Algeria's been very upset with the introduction of Israeli drones and other things along the border that they see as direct new threats. To whatever degree negotiations between Algeria and Morocco, forced or unforced, can implement the old Churchill phrase, jaw is better than war. That's a good thing. De-escalation between Algeria and Morocco is a good thing for the reason. I also don't believe that the two countries have been distracted from their fight against terrorism, on which they cooperate a little bit by the Sahara conflict. I think the larger issue is that Morocco loses as much as 3 points of GDP by having a closed border to the east in the area with the least trade in the world. And Algeria loses about a point. And so the economic benefits of opening things up, opening the border, opening up relations would be tremendous for both countries. If I could add one more point in response to Yasmin, the UN envoys never abandoned the referendum. The Baker Plan included it, which Morocco accepted version 1 and Sahrawi accepted version 2. And of course, this all goes back to 1991 when MNERSA was created with the referendum in mind. And so I think it goes back to what I said earlier about, what does self-determination mean? And if the Sahrawis are able to express it one way or another, that's an area around which the Algerians could make a concession.
Okay, very quickly, William, though, I mean, is where the Trump administration is seeing the real potential here, does it all come down to the economic benefits you were talking about? Is that how they think they can win Algeria over, offering certain gas deals, for example, opening up that border to allow more economic benefit to come in? And can it work?
No, I don't think so. When I read the right-wing think tanks about this in Washington, I'm seeing that somehow there'll be this great opening to Algeria. But the U.S. has been opening to Algeria already. Europe is wide open. Morocco will gain a lot more from the opening of the border than the Algerians will because of the nature of the two economies. So ultimately, in the end, I think it's going to have to be political and geopolitical concessions to Algeria, not economic ones that'll get this moving.
Okay. That will have to be the final word for this edition of the Newsmakers. I'd like to thank all three of my panelists sincerely so much.
قبل ما نجاوب على النقاط اللي جاوبات صراحة الأستاذة المغربية جاوباتهم، نناقش النقطة اللي أثارتها الصحفي ومقدمة البرنامج، وهذه النقطة هي المهمة الإخوان، أن الجمود ما بين المغرب والجزائر حاليا أعطى ربما فرصة للتطرف. هذه الفكرة اللي عند الأمريكان، هذا الشيء اللي وقع في مالي، وهذا الشيء دار القاعدة، وهذا الشيء دار روسيا داخله وفاغنر، كيخلي أن الأمريكان أو الغرب بصفة عامة كيقولوا أنه المنطقة ممكن أنها تشعل، وربما المغرب والجزائر مفرطين أنهم مخلين المنطقة سايبة. وهذه النقطة مهمة، رغم أن الجزائري بغى يقول أن الجزائر لا خوف عليها، راه الجزائر مولفة كتحارب الإرهاب في التسعينات، هي صحابي التسعينات، إرهاب التسعينات هو الإرهاب 2025. لا حبيبي لا، الأمور كتبدل، الأمور داخله فيها دول أخرى. إلا كانت التسعينات غير بيناتكم، هنا داخله فيها دول أخرى. وهنا كيزيد أكد عاوتاني النقطة اللي قلناها مرارا، بأن دابا النخبة الجزائرية أو المفكرين الجزائريين أو الجزائريين بصفة عامة كيقول لك أسيدي الصحراء الشرقية بازال المغاربة كيهضروا على الصحراء الشرقية، وفعلا المغاربة كيهضروا على الصحراء الشرقية، وهذه ولات قضية معترف بها. المغاربة صاد بيرسلوا يديهم على الصحراء الغربية وكيهضروا على الصحراء الشرقية. وسمعتوا هذا اشنو قال. الآن غادا رجعت ثلاث النقاط اللي جاوبت اليوم أو حاولت تجاوب عليهم الأستاذة المغربية. صراحة حنا ما عندناش، حنا مصالحين مع نفسنا، ما عندناش شي عقدة أننا نبقاو نضروا شي أمور. قال واش عامل الوقت مهم، بس واخا ما يكونش مهم عامله، حنا ما مزروبينش، حنا المغرب في الصحراء ديالو. بغا الجزائر تفاوض مرحبا، ما بغاش تفاوض، بغا هذا الدوسي كاع يمشي 50 سنه اخرى، ما بقاش عندنا حنا مشكل هامش ديال الوقت، ما بقاش عندنا عقده الوقت. كذلك واش ممكن الجزائر دير تنازل؟ الجزائر ملي كتقول لك هي ماشي طرف، هذه القضيه غتخرج عليها شي نهار. دابا طرف شي نهار غتمشي انتفاضه، بقات المواجهه الوحيده لان الجزائر النظام الجزائري هي مع بوليزاريو. شي نهار غتطوط بوليزاريو او تمشي انتفاضه للداخل وتقول لك سيدي انا صافي باع، انا بغيت نقرر المسار ديالي وغادي ندخل مع المغرب. وديك الساعه الجزائر غتشد من الكلام ديالها انها ليست بطرف، وهذا سوف ينقلب السهل على السهل وعقلوا عليها. اما النقطه الاخرى بان تطبيع وغسه، ما عندناش مشكل في هذه القضيه، صافي نسدينا الامور، لان الموضوع ديال الطبيع سديناه. وقلنا ربما هاد الاتفاقيه الابراهيميه هي كانت ديكلونشات، هي اللي بانسيري ديكلونشات القضيه. ولكن المغرب راه خدم وجد واحد الاساس للترام، ولا بغيو كيبغيو يديروا المسكينه الاستاذه حاولت تقول لهم لا راه غزه راه ماشي بحال الصحراء، وراه سيدي تعتبروا كما بغيو يعتبروا. حنا ما نبقاوش نحلوا الناس ديالهم وهذوك الانحياز التاكيدي ديالهم. المهم الصحراء ديالنا اللي بغى يجي يشوف حنا فيها، وكل شيء وقرار اممي جا، اللي بغى اللي ما بغاش ما بغاش. هذا واقع، خصنا سياسه الواقع كاينه. ما بقاوش يبداو يلعبوا يدغدغوا المشايع ديالنا كما هذه بحال هذه كما هذه بحال هذه. المهم القناعه اللي عندنا ان الصحراء غتولي واحد ليردوادو اقتصادي مهم وسياحي مهم، واللي بغى يجي يستثمر. وهذا الحل الاقتصادي راه هو اللي غيحل هذيك المنطقه اللي المغرب تانع بها وخدام فيها ما مربعش يدو. عطينا الراي ديالك في التفسيرات ديال الاستاذه وكالات ديالها، وكذلك بالنقطه ديال الارهاب والجمود بين الدولتين خلى الإرهاب، وممكن الإرهاب يسبب أضرار في المنطقة. هذه القضية مهمة الإخوان، راه هضرنا لها بزاف مرة. جاوبني واعطيني الرأي ديالك في هذه القضية. لقاء فيديو آخر إن شاء الله. تهلا.